Welcome. It's Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony up on the hill. It is Sunday, November 2nd. We just changed the clocks back an hour last night. So it's a little brighter out here than it was this time last week, but very, very foggy here in San Marcos, California. Doesn't matter. We'll go over anyway. So we're going to talk about the astrology of November 2nd to the 8th this week. Relatively busy week. We've got a couple of major thematic planets going on, one being Venus, one being Mars. We're going to talk about both of those. Venus we'll cover first. So the big energy of this week is the full moon in Taurus. Taurus ruled by Venus, okay? And this full moon in Taurus on Wednesday morning, okay, it's really with us all week. It's even active right now, plus or minus 3 or 4 days on either side. So we're really in this full moon in Taurus energy. Venus being the ruler. Venus is actually, as we speak, this weekend, is opposing Chiron in Aries, and it's squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So that ongoing square between Jupiter and Cancer, Chiron and Aries that I've talked about the last few weeks, that's about to break up here for the rest of November. It'll come back together in December, okay? But this speaks to the new moon we had a couple weeks ago, okay? New moon in Libra that was opposing Chiron in Aries and squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So Venus is right in that spot, same degree area, okay? And it's the ruler of this full moon in Taurus. So the themes come back, the same theme of vulnerability. So we're emotionally growing through vulnerability. So there's things in our lives, in this case with the full moon, that are coming to completion. I mean, we've really done some work in this Taurian realm, okay? Uranus was in Taurus from 2018 up until essentially now. In fact, on Friday, Uranus will be backing into Taurus for the final run, okay? So that started in 2018, but it'll be in its final stay in Taurus through about April or so. So we're finishing up what this Uranus and Taurus has meant for us since 2018. And a lot of that has to do with reorganizing our perception of safety, stability, our self-worth, money, etc. Okay? So whatever we were considering was stable versus not stable, Uranus and Taurus has taught us, wow, this is a new way of experiencing stability that I would have judged as instability before. Okay, it's been ongoing for a number of years, and we're in the completion phase right now with this full moon in Taurus. Okay, and then subsequently, Uranus moving back into Taurus here later in the week. Okay, so for its final run, this final rejuvenation or modernization, essentially, of our old ways of seeing stability in self-worth, etc. Okay, so that's what's happening here. And so in conjunction with that, we have, again, Venus stimulating that same Jupiter-Chiron square that we had with the new moon in Libra a couple weeks ago, okay? So really digging into this idea of vulnerability when it comes to resources, etc. And note that what we have going on in the collective, especially in the US, we have this whole SNAP benefit situation, okay? So that really rings true with this theme, okay? Taurus has to do with money, has to do with the basic necessities of life, okay? And you see what's going on there. Sorry. And as we're transitioning now into this new societal evolution with that conjunction of Saturn and Neptune on February 20th at the 0 degrees Aries point, so we have this desperation mode of the globalist system that has been in place since the last Saturn-Neptune conjunction that was in Capricorn in 1989, okay? This top versus down, this power over the people, and that barrier breaking down, just like the barrier between left and right broke down in 1989. That was the Berlin Wall, right? So that's, Saturn, Neptune, whenever they come together, it's all about dissolution of an old form and then a formation of a new ideal, okay? And so that new ideal we're coming into is going to be this more individuation. And so we're in the last phases of this dependency, right? Because really what this whole thing is revealing is how much dependency there is for basic necessities on power, right? The power providing those necessities. And so Uranus and Taurus has been, really like a tornado whirling that up. We saw that with 2020 when everyone was getting money during the lockdowns and whatnot. And so we're kind of washing that through, part of this power wash that we're in right now, where we're cleaning that out because we're coming into a new phase of individuation on a societal level. Okay, so that dependency needs to go. And so we're getting that revelation of how dependent we are at this point. Okay, then Venus like again, being the theme here, it's in late Libra, making that opposition to Chiron and that square to Jupiter. It's going to switch over into Scorpio later in the week. And when it does, it's going to make a square to Pluto in Aquarius Friday, Saturday time frame next week, okay? And so that's a very intense aspect. It begs for growth, begs for transformation, okay? And so it speaks to, again, these themes that we're talking about here when it comes to resources, when it comes to basic necessities, etc. So there's a sense of real like survival coming up, and that sense of transforming our approach to that, okay? The other theme for this week is Mars, like I mentioned before. So Mars is currently, tomorrow to be exact, it's going to, from Scorpio, late Scorpio, it's trining Neptune in late Pisces. Then it's going to enter Sagittarius on Tuesday, oppose Uranus in Gemini, and then form a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. And so those are the three outer planets, the evolutionary planets, okay? The three planets that are involved in this next societal evolution phase that we're entering in. When Saturn Neptune joins each other at 0 degrees Aries, it's going to be forming a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius and a sextile to Uranus and Gemini. So all three outer planets, evolutionary planets involved, okay? And Mars is now highlighting those three planets just like Mercury did last week. So remember, Mercury is going to be turning retrograde next Sunday. So when I'm out here next Sunday, we'll talk more about that. That'll be November 9th to the 29th, from 6 degrees Sag back to 20 degrees Scorpio. That already stimulated this outer planet movement, okay? And now Mars is covering those tracks. Then the sun will do that later in November. And then Venus will do that even later than that, and right around Thanksgiving or so, okay? So this theme of kind of transitioning these three outer planets into their new signs is happening, with some personal planets kind of bringing it over there, okay? So if we isolate those, though, just looking at that Mars opposite Uranus on Tuesday, that has some volatility to it, okay? But again, it is happening in conjunction with the trine to Neptune and a sextile to Pluto. So it all has a purpose, okay? But just know that, Mars opposite Uranus can be a little volatile at times. But the big theme for it, internally speaking, is realizations. And in terms of realizations, in terms of what we want to do about things, okay? Mars is action. So where Mercury introduced this whole theme, and it's going to close out the theme in December, but we have Mars, Sun, Venus, all handshaking with those outer planets essentially. And this phase of it this week has to do with action, okay? So what are we going to do about this realization of this transformation of society, right? What are we going to do about our place in that transformation, okay? So we'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, it's Christopher Taylor Sovereign Harmony. You can see my monthly updates, weekly updates, etc. Follow me on Facebook, Sovereign Harmony Astrology. That's where you're going to get the semi-daily posts, so a few a week or so. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions, please tune in next week. If you do, if you want to look at your chart, for example, I do personal readings. We can talk about all these planetary motions, what they're doing in your chart, and we'll help you, see more clearly about where your place is in this world. So with that, we will leave it, and we'll see you next week. Take care.